G'day guys and welcome back to another One Piece deck profile. Today we're going to be checking out Belo Betty. So Belo Betty is one of the new leaders out of OP05 and it's got some classic red stuff. Like to be rushy, like to be aggressive, and can beat pretty much any deck if it sees all the stuff you need nice and early. Does run out of steam if the game does turn to a longer one, drags out a bit there. That's where Belo Betty definitely struggles, is managing that resource there, because we're doing lots of trash from hand effects, so hand gets pretty small, and if we get all our characters and resources wiped out, we struggle a little bit. But with early game rush pressure, we do actually pretty well. Now let's take a closer look at Belo Betty, the lovely alternate artwork. So Betty's effect, or Betty's stats first of all: 5,000 power, 4 life, a red and yellow leader. The effect is activate main once per turn. You may trash one revolutionary army type card from your hand. Up to 3 of your revolutionary army type characters or characters with trigger gain 3,000 power during the turn. So a lot of the red stuff here in the deck is revolutionary army, and then we have some really good yellow trigger cards that can all get buffed by that, but we just want to keep plenty of targets for that revolutionary trash, because that's where a lot of our pressure comes in. Really good with your normal kind of leaders as well, also good into those bigger leaders like the red, purple Luffy and Whitebeard. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk about our main searcher for the deck, which is Belo Betty. So Betty is a 1, cost 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal one revolutionary army type card other than Belo Betty, add it to your hand, the rest go to the bottom of your deck in any order. So there are only 18 cards in this deck that Belo Betty cannot find. You can find anything else, which is absolutely insane. Really helps with that consistency side of things right there. Alright, we're going to look at our revolutionary army type characters first of all. There are some ones with some pretty nice tech going on. So the first one that we want to look at, we're running a full playset of Kuma. So Kuma, 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. On play, KO one of your opponent's characters with 2,000 power or less, and the trigger is if your leader is multicolored, you can play this card, which Belo Betty is. Now 2,000 power may not seem like a lot, that we do have a few cards in here which we'll go over that do help with your DP reduction. We've got some that minus by 3, some that minus by 1. So there are some ways to make that a bit more effective. Really good into the decks that like to have it go low and struggles into those tall decks. Really good to use as Betty trigger effect fodder in those matchups where Kuma's not that great. Let's talk about one of those cards that do help us reduce some power, which is Koala. So Koala is a 2 cost, 3,000 power, 2k counter, so we're running a full play set of that there. Then on play, if your leader is a revolutionary army type, you can give one of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power during the turn. So a combo of those right there, we do get to KO something with 5,000 power or less, which sounds a bit nicer there, that is for sure. The next card that we want to have a look at is a full playset of Lindbergh. So Lindbergh, 4 cost, 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. When attacking, if this character has 7,000 power or more, KO one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So this can be paired well with Koala as well. So we can KO things with 6,000 power or less. And this also has a trigger. You've got to trash a card, and if your leader is multicolored, you can play it out for free. Now, if you haven't picked it up already, there are a lot of trigger cards here in the deck. So you don't mind taking early swings or early hits at your life with Belo Betty, because you want to try and flood the board with things. So you've got multiple things to buff up with Belo Betty's effect. Now Lindbergh here gains that effect when it's 7,000 power or more, so when you trigger Belo Betty's effect, when Lindbergh's out there, his effect activates and you can pop things nicely. Speaking of one that has a similar kind of activation requirement and effect, is Morley. We're running a full playset of Morley. So Morley, 3 cost, 5,000 power, no counter, so the only let down to Morley here. But when attacking, if this character has 7,000 power or more, just like Lindbergh, your opponent cannot activate blockers during this battle, and the trigger is exactly the same as Lindbergh. Trash a card and then play out Morley. So Morley's basically like the rush Luffy of the deck without the rush part, but it is the unblockable part, which is nice to see. It does win you some games with that there. Otherwise, decks that don't run a lot of blockers you can use as discard fodder for Belo Betty's effect. The next card that we're running a full play set of Inazuma. Inazuma is like the other part of the Rush Luffy. This is the Rush card of the deck. Costs you 3, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter. If you have a character with 7,000 power or more, so this one is not itself, but something else on the board has 7,000 power or more, that's when Inazuma gains Rush. So quite easy to achieve that with Belo Betty's effect, so that Rush is usually does come into play. Alright, now we're going to look at one of the better combos or combinations of cards. First of all is a card that works well with all your other revolutionary type cards that we've already looked at, which is Ivankov. So Ivankov costs you 4, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter. Activate main once per turn. If this character has 7,000 power or more, play one revolutionary army type character with 5,000 power or less from your hand. Fun fact, that's all of the revolutionary army type cards that we have. So you can play out any of them, which is wild. There's no other resting a dawn effect there. So Ivankov is pretty protected. It's just got to have 7,000 power more. So you can do that by popping some dawn under, using Belo Betty's effect, but you can play out anything. You can play out your rush stuff, you can play out your DP reduction stuff. But the best card to play off Ivankov's effect is Karasu. So we're running a full play set of Karasu. Karasu costs you 5,000 power, 1,000 counter on play. If your leader is a revolutionary army type, give one of your opponent's leader or characters minus 1,000 power during the turn. Then when attacking is essentially the same thing. If this character has 7,000 power or more, give one of your opponent's characters or leaders minus 1,000 power during the turn. So this makes it really hard for your opponent. So you use Vankov's effect, you play out the Karasu, you're minusing their leader by 1,000, so the leader is now 4,000 or maybe 5,000 depending on your matchup, and you can get a bunch of swings in with your other characters that you have on board. This survives. You can attack when you have 7,000 power more. There's no other requirement for that effect. You don't have to rest anything or pay any dawn. You're just minusing their leader by 1,000 again. If your Ivankov survives, you can play out another one. Their leader's 3,000. It's going to be a massive struggle for them. Next up, we're going to look at the only event cards that we are running in the deck, and this does round off our revolutionary army type cards as well. We're running a full play set of Emporio Energy Hormone. So this costs you 3, which is a bit hefty, but a few things going on with it. It is a counter. You can buff something by 3,000 power during the battle, but once you do that, you can play one revolutionary army type card with 5,000 power or less from your hand. So it helps you flood the board, helps you get characters out there that you can then buff with your Belo Betty, which is really nice. And the trigger is that same playing effect of a revolutionary army type character with 5,000 power or less. And as we mentioned before, that's all the revolutionary army type cards you have in the deck. They're all 5,000 power or less, so you can play any of them. Alright, moving away from the revolutionary army types and the red package of the deck, we're going to look at the yellow package that we are running. We are running a full playset of Sanji. So all the other ones are going to be trigger cards because we want to span the board with a bunch of things. Sanji, we all know Sanji, 4 cost 5,000 power, 1,000 counter, blocker. You got a trash card to play Sanji. That 5,000 base is really nice. When it gets buffed by Betty, it's a 8,000 body that can swing, which is really nice. The next one that we have is a nice aggro yellow card, which is Smoothie. Smoothie has the same stats as Sanji. The effect though is when attacking, you may add one card from the top or bottom of your life to your hand. This character gains 2,000 power during the battle. The trigger is the same effect as Sanji. Trash a card to play it out. So Smoothie, really good. So you can go up to 8 off Betty's effect, and then you can go up to 10 by trashing a life, which is absolutely madness. So it can be nice and aggressive there with Smoothie. Next up, we are running a full play set of Cracker. Cracker, full cost 5,000 power, 1,000 counter, just like the others. The effect though is Don times 1. If you have less life than your opponent, this character gains double attack and 1,000 power. So really good into those games where you're just falling behind. So like other aggro rush decks or decks that have just some big bodies that can swing early. This helps you kind of turn the game around there. So Cracker's pretty good, and then it is a 1k counter if you really need it. The trigger is the same as the other 3 we just looked at. Trash card to play this from your life. So as we can see, trigger heavy, so we don't mind taking those early hits. The last 3 cards of the deck, we are running 3 copies of Capone. Capone is 3 cost 3,000 power, 2k counter. The main reason why it's in the deck, and the trigger is also the other main reason why it is in the deck, is up to one of your opponent's characters or leaders cannot attack during this turn. So you can maybe run like a brulee or something in there, in that place as a blocker, but just that found having that extra 2k counter card in the deck is more valuable. Plus, it is a bigger body, it has that 3000 power, so if for some reason you need to play it, your hand's absolutely bricky, you can buff it still with Betty's effect and you go up to 6000 power, so you swing into any leader at that stage. Alright, there is the deck in all of its glory. Nice simple one, a fairly cheap one as well, especially if you have your hands on the yellow stuff from previous sets there. But thank you so much for checking out the video. Let us know what you think of the profile. Let us know if you played something like this or something a bit different. Always love to hear your ideas and thoughts. Once again, thank you for checking out the video. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you all in the next one.